Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I actually wanted to talk about the recent Misfits versus SK Telecom T1 Worlds match, just because it illustrates a really good point that I have been thinking for a while and that I firmly believe is the reason for the West disadvantages against Korean teams, but Eastern teams in general. And the biggest thing to me that this match highlights is the strength of regional metas. So let me kind of break down what I mean by this. So usually every time a team is going to Worlds or going to MSI and they come from North America or Europe, they tend to send their team overseas to Korea to boot camp, play on Korean solo queue, try to scrim against Korean, to practice in the best region in the world to try and improve their game. However, I honestly feel as though this is a disadvantage that these teams are doing. Yes, you're playing against some very, very good players. You have the opportunity to scrim against teams you don't normally get to play, who are some of the best teams in the world. SK Telecom, Longshu, KT Rolster, all these teams, very, very strong teams. However, the entire time you're scrimming in Korea and you're trying to learn from Korean pros, you're adapting your playstyle to the Korean meta. And I think this is a problem. I don't actually think that that's an advantage. And the biggest reason for me why this isn't, because Korean pros are used to playing against Korean style play. I mean, if you play in the LCK, you're playing only Korean teams, so you're going to be very, very good at that particular meta. And this is a problem to me because the 1 month North American and European teams spend in Korea trying to learn this style of play of the Korean meta, emulate it in their games. However, you have to think that this is a disadvantage because the Korean teams know what you're doing. They've played against this all year long, and you don't do it nearly as good as their competition does. So by the time you finally play them at Worlds or whatever, you don't actually have anything new to show them. You just kind of, what else, you know, because you're trying to play their own game against them. They know how to play against that game, and they will beat you every single time. So, the thing to me is that Korean and Eastern teams, but you shouldn't be trying to emulate their playstyle one for one. The biggest advantage that Misfits had in this series is that they didn't try to play SKT's game. They didn't elect to play the Korean meta. Instead, they opted for a very European-style gameplay, and in fact, you can just see that from their champion picks, bring out the Ivern. Ivern is a very European pick, I would say. That's not a champion that many teams are considering, but G2 has played it earlier in this tournament. In fact, Misfits brought it out in this game. It's definitely, and it had more prevalence in Europe than it ever did in North America or other regions. So this is a very European pick. This doesn't come out if a team is boot camping in Korea. They haven't seen Ivern in weeks. They are valuing different picks in the jungle. They figure that's off the table. They're not even considering it as an option. Misfits, though, because they're playing their region's meta, the European meta, they're saying Ivern is a good option here because it allows us to subvert Blank's early jungling pressure because Ivern can take any path he wants because he's Ivern, and it gives us some really strong pick and really strong early game to counter SKT's weak early game. It allowed them to exploit that. They also played the Leona. That was a really weird pick. That's more of a pocket pick. I will give them that. I don't think anybody saw that coming, but the Ivern in particular is sort of a European special, and I think the Leona, though, does contribute to the early aggression that European teams usually have against enemy teams. So, and this brought them very much success playing against SK Telecom. This is the best team in the world, 3-time world champions, and Misfits are a 3rd seed European team. The ULCS is probably one of the weaker regions in the Big Five. But despite this, you would think that this matchup would be a no-brainer. SKT 3-0, move on. But because they played to their region's strengths, because they did something that SKT didn't expect, and because they did it in a way that exploited SKT's weaknesses, they were able to take 2 games off SKT. They were able to bring them all the way to Game 5. There's only been like one other team that's done that at Worlds, and that was Samsung Galaxy last year in the finals, another Korean team. So to see that a European 3rd seed was able to essentially go toe-for-toe with God and almost win is a huge deal. Now, SKT are still the best team in the world. They made the right adaptations. They were able to figure out how to beat Misfits given enough time. Their coach, obviously Keikoma, is very, very good at reading drafts and figured out a way to come back. But you still have to think that the fact that Misfits were able to achieve this much success has kind of paved the way for other regions to realize how you beat SKT. And I think it goes to support my point that if you play your regional meta, yes, maybe not it's as strong as the Korean meta, but I think the biggest advantage it has is that because it's so unpredictable and because you are not used to playing against that style, it gives you an advantage. In fact, even earlier in the tournament, the Gigabyte Marines basically played whatever compositions they thought were going to work, regardless of whether or not it was meta. They brought out Urgot, they brought out Kayn, they brought out Rengar, Zillion, all of these really weird picks, but they weren't all troll picks. Every time they played one of those champions, they had a strategy, they had a purpose behind it. It's just that the rest of the world isn't playing their same meta or their same game. I will say that they're a little bit weirder than most other teams, but the point kind of remains is that they're playing their own personal strategy, and that's why they're finding success. So basically what I'm trying to get at here is that regions should be looking to play their own personal style at Worlds and at international tournaments, but they should be... Obviously, you want to be trying to adapt your play based on who you're playing against. If you know SKT has a weak early game, capitalize on that. If you know a team has a weak late game, capitalize on that. But make sure you're staying true to your style, because that's what is giving teams major advantages over their opponents. And that's where I would like to see Western teams move towards in the future instead of trying to emulate Korean plays and Korean tactics. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Go ahead and let me know what you are thinking of this whole subject down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys and what you think about teams going for regional style versus trying to adapt to the best style so far in the world. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're hungry for more, grab my blog, grabthelantern.tumblr.com. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your guys' enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.